Good morning and welcome to the Namaste Center. And it's November 9th, I think. 10th, thank you for correcting me, of course. Jumping ahead there, falling back. We fell back last week, right? Anyway, it's a great day. It's beautiful outside. If you're not here in this room today is actually a 10. It's probably 60 degrees out. Crisp blue skies, beautiful. So wish you all were here. But we can enjoy it, and just another thing, to reflect on the beauty, because the more beauty we allow ourselves to experience, that just expands throughout our entire being and makes it even more possible for us to remember who we are in truth. And I was thinking about, I just allow each week the circumstances and the conversations of each week to sort of lead me into what I choose to share with you on Sunday. And so today I chose an interesting topic, and it was based on a conversation we had in our ministry class just last week. And it was about suffering. And, suffering is, I won't go there. But suffering is such an interesting topic. And right now it appears that in our world there's a lot of things going on that are creating suffering. And besides our personal issues, which could be physical, financial, emotional, relationship, work-related, those issues, that can be challenging and difficult, there's global issues that are happening in a big way. And those issues, of course, can be reflected in the matter of world peace or lack thereof. It can be also an expression of this catastrophic incident, this typhoon that literally is mind-boggling to think that a storm of wind speeds up to 245 miles an hour. I mean, that's insane. Twice a Cat 5. And we've been through a Cat 5 in Florida. That's horrific. I can't even imagine twice that. And so our brothers and sisters in the Philippines, they've been hit pretty hard, not only with this storm and just thousands and thousands of deaths, but I'm sure that they're suffering right now. And it's not about us as spiritual beings, it's an illusion, change your mind and it's all going to be okay. That's not really what love is about. But I do want to sort of take us into that vein of understanding what suffering is and maybe how we can relinquish it in our own lives. Because since we're all one, every time I make a choice for love or peace over fear and conflict, everyone benefits by that. So I can focus on something traumatic, like what's happening in the Philippines right now, and I can go into that's awful, and the compassion and the sadness, and I can let it take me over. Or I can be, as A Course in Miracles talks about, a detached compassion. Yes, I can be compassionate, I can send love, and I can even feel sadness for them, but I'm not emotionally attaching myself to that. And because, again, whatever we focus our energy on, whatever our energy is, then we're just creating more of the same in the world. So the most loving thing we can do for anybody is to heal our own misperceptions, our own suffering. And that way, by us being a light into the world, everybody benefits. And we're more amped up to handle our own circumstances in our own life and to help others. But a definition of suffering from A Course in Miracles says one of the basic ego witnesses to the reality of the body and the non-existence of spirit. Since the body appears to experience suffering or pain, or to be in pain, therefore is to deny God, while being aware of our true invulnerability as God's Son is to deny the reality of pain. And it says that pain and suffering and sickness are really all one and the same. Again, when we're suffering, if I focus on my body, as Gary Renard a few weeks ago so eloquently said, the quote from the Course, I am not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me. Of course, my body is temporal. My soul, the light and love within me, is changeless, formless, and eternal and not affected by any of this. But if I identify with this, and as Gary Renard has called this in the past, our meat bag, okay? This meat bag, if I identify with that, and if I get a dog bite or something on my finger, and then all of a sudden, or if somebody looks at me cross-eyed and I allow it to take away my peace, then I'm forgetting who I am. I'm forgetting that I was created in love, light, peace, wholeness, oneness, all those good things. And it's not to say we don't go to the doctor and treat the, you know, what we're dealing with, the symptoms here, and or the effects. Oh, got a cut here, got to deal with it. But we can do it either from a frame of mind of peace or pain. And it's up to us to really make a decision every moment which mind I'm taking. You know, everything is either love or fear. I love what the simplicity of the Course in that respect, and there's not many simple aspects to it, but the Course says that every moment we're allowing either the love of God to direct me or the fear of the ego to direct me. And the ego's continually judging and condemning and saying, ain't it awful, and my life circumstances are terrible, and you're terrible, and I mean, it feels terrible to talk about that. But Spirit's always about forgiveness and healing and possibility and abundance and oneness. And when we come from that, not only does it feel better for us, it lifts the vibe of the entire universe, truly. Science has now proven that, so I'm not just throwing out spiritual mambo jumbo here. I mean, this is proven, because really this universe is energy, and that's what we are. And we have a moment. Every moment we have a choice to decide with God or to decide with the ego. If we want to create a world with more peace and harmony, less suffering, choose God. If we want to continue to suffer and blame and defend and attack, well, the ego will take you there for sure. But it goes on. I found an article about Buddhism and A Course in Miracles. And one thing I've always found interesting about the Course, and what led me to A Course in Miracles, was the way that it was. I was a seeker of finding that common spiritual thread that flowed through everything. And the Course, for me, was that tool, was that teaching. And basically, the cool thing about it is it says that, you know, it's very Eastern in thought, and the idea that this world is an illusion, and that all suffering is based on judgment. And then it also really brings in the reference to many scriptures which make, oh, that's what they meant when they said that. That's what forgiveness is about. That's what love is. Oh, this was Jesus' message. You know, Jesus, of course, when you do a Google search on A Course in Miracles, of course, you have to go through all the articles that say it's a cult, and how dare them say that we're equal with Jesus and that this world isn't real. But once you get past that and get to the good stuff, which is the fact that we're all one. Oh, what a horrible thought! And that we're love. I mean, isn't that terrible? And but if we allow ourselves, you know, again, a lot of religion is based in suffering, and not to pick on one, but we'll just say the Catholic Church, and in the idea of, and I'm not picking on it, I'm just sharing facts, ma'am. I'm just sharing the facts, just the facts. But if you go to a Catholic church, how often do you see the cross with Jesus with the nails and the blood, and it doesn't look like it's very happy. And he doesn't look like he's too comfortable there, to say the least. But Jesus, from A Course in Miracles, says, you know, quit focusing on my suffering. That whole gig there that I'd played out, you know, through my crucifixion, was to set up the resurrection and to demonstrate to you, yeah, you can do this to my body, and you can condemn me and crucify me, and not only physically, but verbally, and condemn me. But guess what? I was so tuned in to my connection with Spirit that I was able to resurrect from that. And when we focus on that, that's what Jesus says. Are you focusing on the crucifixion or the resurrection, the suffering or the joy? And so every moment we're actually going through our lives making these choices. Do I choose to crucify myself for another, or do I choose to resurrection consciousness? And so there's a little story, and it's I found this, and it says For example, the whole ancient master teachings on suffering come down to this. Suffering, and this is from a Buddhist perspective, suffering is the notion that this isn't it, and variants such as I can't bear this, or this shouldn't be happening, or I have to know how this is going to work out, or better yet, this is just getting worse and worse and worse. And again, just if you bring in another context to this, another philosophy, to where, you know, what we focus our attention on, it just dominates us, and it turns into a spiral, huge spiral of fear or love. And so this fellow, his name was Bodhidharma, and it said he was red-haired, blue-eyed, pierced in tattoo, and he was a barbarian from India. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. And so he was asked, what's the first principle of the holy teaching? And Bodhidharma says, vast emptiness, nothing holy. And then he says, well, the emperor says to this holy man, well, who are you? He says, I don't know. And it's so true. I think that this is so relative to A Course in Miracles. It says, what's the first principle of holy teaching? And it's vast emptiness. And it's that nothingness. It's without attachment. You know, the Buddhist teachings say that all suffering comes from attachment. Wanting, I'm attached to this, and if this doesn't meet my perception of what I think it should be, then I'm going to suffer. But if I can just understand that there is nothing holy, and yet at the same time, everything is holy. And so that's interesting. That's that barbarian coming in here. That redhead. Yeah, there you go. But it has to do with, I think, you know, we get caught up, and I've spoken of this in the past many times, and certainly those of you that know me know that I am not I don't prescribe to any behavior being holy or less holy for myself. Let's put it that way. And others, I would hope to say. But it's because I think we're all one. We're all teachers and all students. And we get so tricked up. You know, the Course in Miracles does not prescribe behavior because it's real easy to say, well, that way of eating is more spiritual than this way of eating. Or this way of dressing is more spiritual and sacred and holy than that way of being. You know, there's a whole school out there of millions, I would say, that actually believe that, for example, what we're teaching and talking about in here is not holy and far from it. And then not to mention certain behaviors and life choices, maybe in relationships and behaviors that some say, oh, that's not holy, and it's like very pious and saying, you know, no, this is what a holy person looks like. Well, you know, if we go back to what God sees in us, and if we really go back to the truth, in my mind and my true belief, is that God doesn't see anything but our perfection. God's not judging us in any way, shape, or form. So really, to relinquish suffering, it all comes from us being willing to relinquish our own self-judgment. And as I relinquish my own self-judgment, as a beautiful quote from A Course in Miracles says, those who see themselves as whole make no demands. So the less I'm judging myself, guess what? I tend to judge others less. When you find someone who's judging another, probably they are judging themselves even more harshly. So really, relinquishing suffering is relinquishing judgment. And a few little tidbits here that, you know, we don't have to really know what anything is for. You know, the Course in Miracles, there's a lesson. I don't know what anything, including this, is for. You know, that's the ego. I got to know what this is about. No, you don't. That's just that thinking mind questioning. It also says whatever happens is your journey. You know, it's just our journey, it's our path, and it's all for our best interest. You know, don't judge it as good or bad. It just is. And it's actually everything that comes in to our life path, good or bad, is actually an opportunity for our spiritual growth. And I promise you, and I bet you all can relate to this, if you don't learn it, you're going to have that same darn lesson come back again and again and again. Has anyone experienced that? Or is that just me? Okay, just check it. And as I mentioned, a title by Michael Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Well, yes, it's because you haven't learned it. And it's all for our benefit. And, you know, if we can, I love the statement from A Course in Miracles, everything is for your own best interest. And it truly is. Even though when we're in the midst of it, it doesn't seem like it. And then when we look back at something, you know, we can always, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. We look back on something and say, wow, I got upset over that. But that was necessary for our next step in evolution. So we can make it a long process, or we can see it as an opportunity for forgiveness and say, okay, I'm not falling into that trap again. Holy Spirit, I choose to be directed through this condition, this circumstance, with your guidance, not this, what do they say in the 12 steps room? It's your ego's best thinking is what got you in this mess in the first place. Something like that. The ego doesn't have a clue what's going on, because the ego is just fixed on this little piece of the puzzle, where Spirit knows everything and is infinite and knows every situation, every circumstance, every party involved, and can work from that context. All I'm looking out for is what's best for me. That's my ego mind. So it's up to us to choose the ego or the Holy Spirit. And then we can go on and say, this is a big question. What if there is nothing that is wrong? What if we can look on at the world right now and say there's absolutely nothing wrong in this world, it's perfect as it is? Because I could even say within this room, and most of us are pretty love-based, love-centered, we still would have a very different idea of what peace and harmony would look like in this world. So peace and harmony, you know, we can manipulate the screen as much as we want, but it's not about that. It's about changing our thoughts about it. Seek not to change the world, but rather change our mind about the world. The world is not meant to be fixed. It's meant to be forgiven. And forgiven means to see it through different eyes. And knowing that this is just a classroom, and we make up all these lessons to deepen our awareness of who we are as infinite beings of light, of love. And when we tap into that, none of that stuff matters. And I've been there, I can say it, and I say it happily. I've been many times where, you know, I just feel it and I know it, and then I think even better, I got it this time. Don't ever say that. And it's like, and maybe you can relate to that or not, but you're right on that, you know, wave of feeling good and life's great, and you're feeling that peace and harmony, and it makes sense, and no distractions, and then that other layer comes in. But the good news is it's all in divine order and for a purpose. And instead of suffering, we can actually align ourselves with Spirit and love. And there's what Marianne Williamson, one of her quotes here, it says, "We were born in love. Fear is what we've learned here." Now, interestingly enough, I've shared this story, but I'll share it again because it was fascinating to me. First of all, my sister converted to Catholicism because her husband's Catholic, and he thought it would be he really wanted the girls to grow up in the Catholic Church. And since he wanted that more than my sister wanted the Methodist experience for him, which is what we grew up. So she said fine, and she converted, and the girls went through all their catechism classes and what have you. And when my niece Emily was born, she's the youngest, my sister asked me to be the godmother. Well, that was, I was honored and am honored to be Emily's godmother. And, but then we had to finagle it a little bit because, you know, I'm not married. And well, so Jerry, her husband's cousin, and I share the responsibility as man and woman being the godmother to this child. Well, then we go to the baptism. And going back to this quote here, "You were born in love, fear is what you learned here," that wasn't the belief of this priest at all. The priest holds up this beautiful baby and says, the Catholic Church, it's our belief that baptisms are exorcisms. Now, Ellen's there to attest to this. I'm not just making this up. And that children, that when a child is born, it's born in sin, and that we are here to baptize them and take the sin out of them, the devil. And I was like, wow, that's good, yeah. And I'm standing up there, as a proud aunt, just like, and looking at this guy like, wow, that's an interesting idea. But, again, think about that. We were talking, at our ministerial class. I mean, what if kids were born the second that they came out, they just knew they were loved, they were liked, they were encouraged in that context. Everything in their life supported that they were loved, not supporting that this is a fearful place to be, that you're being judged and condemned, that we have to exorcise the devil out of you. I mean, come on, it's like there is an imprint there. So it's about a new paradigm for bringing kids in. And so it's all of these contexts and ideas are really up to us to either align with or not align with. There's nothing we can do, even if we choose to stay aligned with the fear and the suffering, it doesn't change our eternal nature. But a wonderful quote from A Course in Miracles again says, delay is meaningless in eternity, but tragic in time. In the realm of eternity, it doesn't matter. But in this moment, do you really want to suffer? The only thing that creates suffering is, as I mentioned a couple of times already, is judgment. And so I'd like to, this quote, this question from A Course in Miracles. It says, ask yourself, do you like what you've made? I mean, because we've made this all up anyway. And if you don't like it, choose again. And so, we don't have to live in sorrow and sadness. We can live in joy and peace and harmony. And the Course goes on to say, the world that we think we live in was born of separation and will always be characterized by separation. From the scream of a baby when it first enters the world, to the countless wars that have been fought throughout history, the endless competition between people and societies, to our discontent with ourselves and others, the illusion replays the same themes over and over again, only in different forms. The external world will give us in some temporary moments pleasure and hope, and then only to have it taken away. So what little goodness that we have been able to find, okay, it's like, well, they're going to take it away anyway. But that doesn't have to be the case, because it's, again, a choice. So for many who approach Buddhism and A Course in Miracles, it's not so much of a pessimistic attitude than a penetrating observation of life. It's not a temporary view taken only when times are bad or when we feel we can't cope with human life. It's an observation from our experiences in this lifetime and many others, if you believe that. And there's something not quite right with what we call this human experience. And it's from this observation that we ask ourselves, there has to be a better way. And of course, how did the Course come to be? Just by that statement, Helen Schuckman saying there has to be a better way, and I'm determined to find it. And whether or not, bringing it back to, simplicity and not such a big context, if we just take it down to the simplest of equations here, there is a better way. Suffering is a choice. It's always optional. That there are people, I think the most beautiful demonstration of this, what I'm expressing here, is that movie, It's a Beautiful Life. And it's about the father and son who are taken into a concentration camp. And everyone and his father was determined to keep his energy up and make it into a game. And so here's everyone on there knowing that what their fate is as they're riding this train into a concentration camp. And here's this young boy thinking he's on a great adventure. And through that experience, what was that really? It was a movie, but it was also a great demonstration of, just by changing our mind about the experience changes. So even in the most tumultuous of situations, we can choose peace. And I know there are people that continue to do it. There's people with dire circumstances, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, whatever, that can be happy, that choose happiness and not to suffer, and then the reverse. So it's up to us that to make the choices that transcend the suffering. And it goes on here to say our only hope out of the madness is to go beyond this world into ourselves. Both A Course in Miracles and Buddhism make it clear that all the real answers are found within. And you know, we can look out here all we want, but it's not out here, because this is just a projection of what's in here. We've got it backwards. I'm going to fix this, change this, and as soon as this is the way I want it, this is going to feel better. But this is going to be better when this feels better, and it's not based on conditions. So in closing, I'd like to just read this beautiful prayer from A Course in Miracles. And it says, Father, there is a vision which beholds all things as sinless, so that fear has gone, and where it was love and where love was invited in, and love will come wherever it is asked. This vision is your gift. The eyes of Christ look on a world forgiven. In his sight are all sins forgiven, for he sees no sin in anything. He looks upon everything with love. Now let his true perception come to me, that I may waken from the dream of sin and look upon my sinlessness, which you have kept me completely unified with. Let us today behold each other in the sight of Christ. How beautiful we are, how holy and how loving. Brothers, come and join me today. We save the world when we have joined, for in our vision it becomes as holy as the light in us. Isn't that beautiful? So it's just, again, this world is holy. There's no conditions to change, no circumstances that have to affect us, except if we choose to let them be so. And this statement about enlightenment. Enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change at all. So enlightenment, it's here right now. There's nothing we have to do except accept it. So let's make this journey together to enlightenment and accept all that is holy and good, and we will literally transcend this world from fear to love by the time we leave here today. And so it is.
And
Namaste.
so it is. Namaste.